Hey everyone, it's Trevor with eTrailer. Today we are doing an installation and an overview of the Curt base plate on our 2017 Chevrolet Equinox. Now the base plate is going to be a very essential piece whenever it comes to setting up your vehicle for flat towing. And one of the questions I get asked a lot is, what do I need to actually flat tow? Well, you're going to need a base plate, you'll also need a tow bar, the tow bar wiring, your safety cables, and a braking system. And that'll be the main 5 components you'll need to start your system. Now this is what our vehicle is going to look like without the arms and all of our other flat tow accessories hooked up. Typically you would have these arms in place, but Curt gives us these nice covers to kind of seal up the hole that these would go in so that it can prevent corrosion. But as you can see, it has a nice clean finish, and most people aren't going to know what's on there unless they know what they're looking for. Now another question I hear a lot is, how easy is it going to be to get the arms in and out of the base plate whenever I am at the campground? Well, easy to know that it's going to slide right into place, and then all you have to do is turn it. And whenever you're ready to take these out, just pull back on this pin, turn it the opposite way, and it comes right out. Now, if you already have a tow bar and you're not sure if it's going to fit, you can always pick up a set of adapters to adapt your tow bar to the Curt base plate here at eTrailer. Now this base plate is going to get the job done, but I did want to talk about the install just a bit because the install on this was pretty heavy. So a couple things, the fish wire that came with it weren't the right size, so we had to use some 3/8 fish wire, which you can also get here at eTrailer, and the quick links weren't also right, and we had to pick up an extra set of 1/2-inch ones that you can also get here at eTrailer. But outside of that, the install wasn't that bad. You will have to do a lot of drilling, and there will be some cutting to get to some spots to remove some pieces, but if you think that might be a little too much for you, you can also use our dealer locator to find a shop near you that'd be able to get this in and out back on the road for you. But if I've convinced you to go ahead and give this a try, we can go ahead and jump into that installation. To begin our installation, we're going to have 4 bolts that we have to remove and 3 push pins. Now to remove these fasteners, you're just going to need a T20 Torx bit, and you're going to have 2 on each side, and anything from here on out is going to be done on both sides of the vehicle unless noted otherwise. And now we're going to have to remove these push pins off the radiator cover, and to do that you can use a flathead screwdriver and gently pry up around the outside, or you can use a trim panel tool as well. And we did end up finding one more push pin, so you just follow the panel up to the top by our trim going to the hood, and you should be able to find it. Now all you have to do to get this panel out is just grab it, one on the side, one up front, and then just kind of rock it and pull straight up, and you'll hear those pins unclip from here, and then just set it off to the side until we got to reinstall it. Now coming down to the fender well, we're going to have to remove these 2 T20 Torx bit bolts. We'll have 2 push pins, and then right here we'll also have 1 7mm bolt we'll have to take out. Now we're going to take our 7mm socket and work it up into that crevice to get that bolt out, and I'm just going to be using a ratchet, and what we're trying to do is get it broken free, and then we're just going to take and spin the socket by itself. Now we'll need to go underneath the vehicle, and we'll have 2 7mm screws we'll need to take out. And just going to use the same socket and ratchet I used for the fender liner. And once you have those screws out, just pull straight out. It'll release this clip here, and then you can kind of work this underneath our fascia. Now to take our fascia off, you'll need an extra set of hands. I got Joe helping me today, but what we're going to do is we're going to start on the outside edge. And we're going to reach behind it, the fender liner, and kind of pull out slowly. And as we do, we're going to start freeing up these tabs back there. And what you can do is you can take a trim tool once you got it kind of popped out a little bit and find a spot to work it in. So I might work it in here and then just follow up along until we get up to the tail lights here. And if you lift up, it'll also free up the tabs. Now we can pull it back, see any electrical connections, which I have 2 here. And to do this, we'll just pull back this red tab, being careful not to break it. And then push down on the center and kind of wiggle it back and forth until it comes off. There we go. This one down here doesn't have a locking tab, so you just press down in the center. Now with those out of the way, we can go ahead and find a safe place to set this for now. Now with our fascia off, we came down to the passenger side, so we're going to need to remove this air baffle, and we'll have 2 10mm nuts. And to get this part loose, I just kind of wiggled it back and forth and rocked it, and it finally popped loose. Now coming down to the driver's side of the vehicle, we're going to have a reinforcement attached to our bumper that we're going to have to remove. And these 2 bolts here are going to be 15mm, and then our interior ones in these holes are going to be 10. So I'm going to use a 10 socket for these and 15 for outside. And all I did to get that out was just kind of pulled out and bent it back until it popped out of place. Now we'll go ahead and set this off to the side. Now we're gonna have to trim a little bit on this bumper support to actually fit our base plate up. The instructions gave me a diagram and I just went by that. So we're just gonna cut out this section here, and I'm gonna be using an oscillating tool with a metal cutting edge on it. And you can use anything like a sawzall or an angle grinder will work perfect for doing this as well. Now once you make the cut, it's going to be a little tricky to kind of get up in this corner, so what I'm going to do is take a pair of channel locks and just kind of twist it back and forth until this pops off. Now we will have to do this on the passenger side too. Like I said, you'll get a diagram, just follow that and it'll show you what to cut out. Now that we got that cut, I went back and hit it with some rust-resistant spray paint just to make sure that there was no rust forming along those edges. So over here on the passenger side of our air dam, we're going to have an ambient temperature sensor that we're going to have to remove, and then we'll have to trim out where it goes. And to get it popped out of place, I'm just going to use my trim panel tool, but you can use a flathead screwdriver just like with the push pins. With that out of the, we're going to go ahead and just tuck that back behind this bumper support somewhere. And then we'll go ahead and get that marked out a little bit better and trim it. I'm going to use a Dremel this time just so that we don't have to worry too much about it skipping back and hitting the radiator. So we went ahead and held up the base plate to see if it fit, and we noticed we're going to have to cut a little bit of this plastic out, so we're going to go ahead and do so with our multi-tool. And we went and held it back up again after we trimmed some out and realized we had to cut more, so we just followed from where we made the cut up to this point and just went straight down with it. Now with an extra set of hands, we're going to go ahead and get it put up. And And what you want to do is you kind of want to rotate it up and around this flange here, and then kind of push back into place. So we had to kind of go back and use the pole jacks to hold it up for us, and we had to actually mark out and notch a piece of our bumper support here along the way. Once we got that cut out, it fit up a lot better, and now we can go ahead and drill out the holes we need to. And if you're at home too and you want to get it jacked up like this, you can just use your standard hydraulic floor jack and a block of wood to get it in place. So coming over to our driver's side, what we're going to do is drill this hole first, because as you can see, it's not really sitting flush up top. So what we're going to do is drill that out, put our bolt in, and then try and rotate it till it's flush against this area. And for this, I'm using a 25/64 drill bit. So now that we've gotten that hole drilled out, we can go ahead, take our fish wire, and I'm going to put a pretty significant bend in it to help feed it through this hole back in the frame. Now with our pull wire out, we can go ahead and take one of our carriage bolts, the nut spacer, and thread that on. And then the way you want to push it up into the frame is nut block first, then our carriage bolt. Then you can go ahead and get that pulled through. Now with that through, what you'll want to do is hold the bolt kind of down and twist this off. And you can also take a flathead to hold it whenever you do this. And before we go ahead and put the nut on, we're going to go ahead and take some blue Loctite and put on the threads, as it's never really a bad idea to put some of this on just to make sure that everything is nice and secure. So now we're going to repeat that process for these two holes here. And keep in mind, on the driver's side, you're going to have a weld nut behind this bracket. And once you drill through, that should come off. And now with that weld nut out of the way, we can go ahead and get everything snug down and torque to specs. Now that we've gone ahead and torqued those, we're going to go ahead and drill out this hole and get our bolt installed. Now we're going to go ahead and install our bolt. It's just going to be the hex head bolt with a conical tooth washer. Throw a little bit of blue Loctite here on the end of the threads. And we'll get that pushed through our base plate. With that conical tooth washer, make sure the teeth on the outside are also facing against the base plate. Now we'll go ahead and get everything snugged down and torque it down to specs. So now we're going to reinstall the air baffle before we get the safety chains put on this side. So what we're going to have to do is use 3 of the 3/8 washers that are included in your kit, and then put that on each stud. Now once we have that on there, we can go ahead, feed it back up inside of the vehicle here. And then we'll reinstall the 2 flange nuts. Now we went ahead and installed our safety cables. One thing to keep in mind is the quick links that came in this kit weren't the right size, so we did have to pick up some bigger quick links. And if you have the same issue, you can always pick up an extra set of these here at eTrailer. Now, to actually get this wrapped around our frame, I had to remove the tank here. It was just three 10mm bolts to remove it. And then we went up inside of this portion of the frame, out through the top and around the outside. You want to find a good spot too, because if you throw it around here and say this does happen to break loose, that's probably going to come off with it. But if you put it behind that piece of frame like we did, it shouldn't come off as easily. And we did the same thing on the passenger side of the vehicle. I went up, around, and back behind the air baffle. There's a little slit there. Pushed it back through, came out the underside, connected it back to this quick link. Now would be a great time, since we have the base plate installed and the fascia off, to go ahead and install anything else you may need for your flat toe. Now we are going to have to do a little bit of trimming to the fascia, and what we're going to do is cut right along here on our styrofoam, and we'll remove this bottom tab and this bigger tab, and we'll do this on both sides of the vehicle as well. Now we're going to go ahead and get our fascia put back on. And as we do this, we're just going to be careful that we get this all lined up properly up top, as well as on bottom. Now with everything back on the vehicle, that'll complete our installation of the Curt base plate on our 2017 Chevrolet Equinox. My name is Trevor, and thank you for watching.